Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
What a long, strange trip it's been. WBLM celebrating 50 years in 2023, and we are spilling the tea. We're telling you all the stories, and we're going to be able to get really in-depth with this on-demand podcast. Today, we're going to bring you back to 1975, an anniversary this month of Queen at the Lewiston Armory, and the man who put on that show, the concert promoter, Andrew Govatsos. Now, Andrew is near and dear to us. He was BLM's first advertiser back in the 70s. He went on to have a brilliant career in the music business. But Andrew was the first major concert promoter in the Lewiston-Auburn area. He kind of saved concerts in Central Maine, and we'll get into that. And he put on the Queen Show and many other shows, and we'll touch on that with The Long Strange Trip, brought to you by our great friends at AAA of Northern New England. Okay, Andrew, I'm going to take you back to 1975, but actually, let's go a little bit before that, when you started promoting concerts right when BLM went on the air 50 years ago in 1973 at the Lewiston Armory. That's where you started. What was the first show that you did?
My first show was Foghat, so that's 1973. All right, so that's when BLM started, and when I became the first advertiser of concerts. So it actually is. It goes like this: Foghat, John Mayall, wow. B.B. King,
wow,
Procol Harum,
ladies and gentlemen,
and then the big show was Queen. And we knew. Listen, first of all, remember I was a musician. That's how I got to Maine in a band, and I loved Queen. Besides, I was only with Foghat. My first show I was 22, so now I'm 24.
Wow.
When we saw the lineup that we were booking, which was Queen, Kansas, and Mahogany Rush. The Queen show's wild because Queen, I'm 24 years old. I got long hair. I'm from outside of Boston.
Yeah.
It's Lewiston, Maine at the time. Things were different then about marijuana and everything else. Mm-hmm. And here's this kid, pretty much. I'm pretty young, doing shows, making money. As you read these articles, people urinating outside. I love the one. There's one. The 2 people were seen having intercourse in a phone booth, which to me is pretty remarkable.
Just the feeling. So this is the news coverage of the show afterwards, like how you had destroyed the city, right? So, oh my God.
Yeah. Yes. So the show was remarkable. Unfortunately, the Armory is an armory, so it's made for different things, but they were doing stuff. And the crazy thing is Hendrix played there in '68 for Bates College, which is, to me, unbelievable.
Yeah.
They got there. It was freezing out. The limos they drove up from Boston all had fur coats. The haircut, the hair is just like from the album cover, right?
Yeah.
Fur coats. We didn't talk that much. I talked to the tour manager, talked to them a bit, and then Kansas, which just had a big album come out. Yeah. It was really the perfect storm for an amazing show. I was shocked the next day. I know there was some trouble. You're always going to listen. In those days, security was laxed. Yep. The police didn't very aggressive up there. Really, it's a miracle that we pulled all these shows off.
We think about concerts now, and it's 1975, and these big bands are just really starting to mount, touring and putting on shows. Completely different now as opposed to 1975.
Yeah. Listen, we had no restrictions. That's the problem. That's the whole idea about the show is that and I think it was the epicenter of in Lewiston, at least for the alderman, the mayor, who ended up being an ally. He was Greek. I was Greek. We kind of hit it off.
So you got in trouble for doing this show, Andrew? So afterwards, the city came down on you?
Yes. Yeah. I hired a lawyer who ended up that was really into this whole thing about freedoms, right, people's rights and stuff, and he ended up becoming a judge. They wanted to ban rock concerts. Immediately, I said to myself, "Well, you can't ban rock concerts. Even in Lewiston, you can't ban rock concerts. It's unconstitutional, right?" They didn't give a crap. So it came to, it actually was like a lawsuit. You can't, if you ban rock concerts, you have to ban all public gatherings. Now, are you willing to do that? Of course, they kind of gave in, and we moved everything to the Central Maine News Center. So now we're doing Joe Walsh. We're doing Bruce Springsteen. I'm doing Charlie Daniels, Bachman Turner Overdrive. Here's what goes on. So they go, okay, you got this show. We're going to limit you. We know you have a show coming up. We're going to limit you to 5,000 tickets. We got troubles. We got Bachman Turner Overdrive. At the time, they had probably the biggest band in the States, for sure, right? And he goes, I said, we're limited to 5,000 tickets. No, we're not. I'm ordering another 1,000 tickets. You'll have them in a week. You got to sell these tickets so we can make money, because we paid the band a lot of money. Right. So now I'm nervous because, in those days they had those old-fashioned clickers, the police. So to get to, they would be at the door counting people with that clicker.
Right.
Right. So I said to myself, let's open the doors an hour and a half early. Okay. They'll be all lined up. People will come in. So we let everybody in earlier. By the time the cops were bullshit. Right. I mean, they were so mad because I saw them running inside. It's like clear as day, like running around trying to click people. Like it was impossible. So we ended up doing the 6,000 people, which there was plenty of room in there. The thing is, the Queen show was really the for my career. These other shows were great, by the way, but I had no idea what I was doing. By the time I got the Queen, we started to figure stuff out.
Did the Armory have a stage, or you guys had to build?
No, it was an old-fashioned Armory, like a built-in stage, like every Armory has a stage. Yeah.
It looks like the high school.
Exactly.
Oh my God! Do you remember how much you paid Queen in 1975?
The tickets were $550, I think. And I had 4,000 people in there. I paid them $7,000. Wow. Expenses were very minimal because we did everything. I was the ticket person. We were the caterers. We cooked the food for them. So the expenses, and security was lax because, I'm young. So I actually paid them $7,000. After that, they just completely blew up, and I made more than the band.
Right, but think about rock and roll was still the business of rock and roll was still very green. This is an interesting time because a couple years later, and then it's big business, right? Everybody is kind of freewheeling it. It's very lax. It's not like. You can get to the artist. You can walk up to the artist. The Queen thing was just because just to get it done was such a big deal. And it's funny. I've gone back and see where they played. And by the way, they played like 19 songs. Wow. I'm looking at the set list now, and it's like still to this day, Queen's one of my favorite artists live. I mean, did you get to hang with Freddie at all, or any stories about you? We just talked just briefly. It was very brief. I remember it being very cold. Yeah. And they got in a limousine. I mean, they're probably going, and they drove off from Boston. They're probably going, what are we doing? The one thing, and I've learned about that particular band is they were so serious about every show, how they sounded. In those days, there was no lights. There were lights. And I guaranteed it didn't sound good. Right, of course, nothing probably did. And then to have Kansas, in the middle with, unfortunately, Mahogany Rush. When I say unfortunately, they're Mahogany Rush when Rush is already formed. Right. Great band, though. But and then, Andrew, the next day there's an article in the paper. It was rowdiness. People were urinating and fornicating in phone booths. And I had no idea. First of all, I knew there was some stuff going on, but we just figured it. I figured it was regular because now I'm still alone I'm doing these shows by myself. There's one headline: concert begins and ends in drunken riot. Now, why would you say concert begins? In other words, there was a concert and there was a riot. Tickets were printed on this crappy. I'm looking at a ticket. This crappy. Crappy
paper. Anybody could have made them, but I don't think people thought like that in those days. They just, $5.
This thing, you kind of saved rock and roll for Lewiston, for Central Maine. I mean, in terms of winning that court case, being able to move over to Central Maine Youth Center for Springsteen, and what was it like working with the Blimp back then in '75?
Well, I mean,
we're brand new. We're brand new.
If I was going to pay them for an advertising program, I'd drive up to the station and give them a check.
Right.
I'd drive up to Litchfield to the trailers. It was like I'd walk in. Those are the years of, like you were saying earlier, none of us really knew. We were kind of just winging it. It's interesting. The music scene was not Portland in 73. It was in Lewiston because there was a recording studio there and a booking agent that booked literally probably 100 bands, and everybody worked.
Rock and roll is coming into its own. Yeah, shows are just happening. You've got radio stations like the Blimp who are starting to play these artists. How much were you paying for, how much did a commercial cost on BLM back in 1973?
I think it was, I thought it was $3, but I think it was $6.
Ooh, $6.
Yeah, for a 60 though,
We're up to, what are we up to? $8 now today?
Yeah, 800. Probably the best station in the country for what you do. Glad I was there in the very, very, very beginning, living on Sabata Street in Lewiston.
Oh my God. Well, listen, the Blimp wouldn't be what it would be without you. And the anniversary of this show, Feb 19, 1975. Can you believe it's been that long?
It's unbelievable.
What a long, strange trip it's been, my friend. Thanks for being on with us.
Well, thank you.
Andrew's got lots of great stories to tell on WBLM's 50th anniversary. We'll have him back a lot this year because it has been a long, strange trip. Keep coming back and listen to the Blimp Morning Show Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7:15 for the long, strange trip. And keep coming back here. We're going to do some more in-depth podcasting with a WBLM Morning Show on demand. Andrew, thanks for being with us, and thanks to AAA of Northern New England for bringing you the long, strange trip. Happy 50th anniversary to Blimpville.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.